All right, guys, let's talk about using percents and calculations. There's a lot of people out there that get kind of scared off by percents, and really they're pretty simple, especially if you're using a calculator, which, I mean, in most math classes, you're going to have a calculator available to you. Is it handy and powerful to be able to use percents without a calculator? Yeah, it is. But speaking towards a classroom setting, you're probably always going to have a calculator, especially in upper level math class. So in this video, we're going to talk about using percents, and I'm going to use a calculator to kind of describe this and make it go a little bit quicker. But yeah, there's some tricks that you can employ to do these without a calculator, and that's handy to know. And maybe that'll be for a different day. But for right now, we're just going to focus on you could do hand calculations too, but just to move a little bit faster here and more smoothly, I'm going to talk about using the calculator. But we do need to learn how to manipulate percents into their decimal numbers. So that's kind of how I'm going to be going over it today. All right, so let's scan down here to I got a problem built here, and it reads 30% of the number 250. Okay, so some keywords in math I like to always teach my students is anytime you're taking something of something, okay, the keyword of, all right, so this could be a fraction. You could be taking 1/2 of 250. You could be taking 60%. You could be taking 2 1/3 of 250. Okay, so anytime you're taking something of something, okay, replace that keyword with a multiplication sign. Okay, so anytime we're taking something of something, it means multiply. And the very first rule I always teach my students is anytime you're going to use a percent number, okay, so the number 30 is a percent here. Well, how do we know? Well, because it has a percent sign after it. It's a percent number. We always want to turn our percent number into its decimal number, which is its percentless number, anytime we're going to use a percent in a calculation. Okay, there's different ways to do it. This is how I always teach it. I think it's the most straightforward and the best rule-oriented way to go about it. So 30%, okay, where's the decimal point in the number 30? Every number has a decimal point, and if it doesn't show the decimal point in the number, then we assume that the decimal point is at the far right end of the number. So there's the decimal right there, okay? In order to turn any percent out there, I mean any percent, into its decimal number, all you do is you move the decimal point 2 spots to the left, okay, which is the same thing as dividing the number by 100. Let's check it out here, right? The number 30 divided by 100, it's the same thing as moving the decimal point 2 spots to the left, okay? So once, twice, that's going to give us the number 0.3, or you could call it 0.30, whatever, same thing. We could shave that last zero off and call it a 0.3. I'll just leave it 0.30 times, I'll just use grouping symbols, times 250. And there's the calculation right there. So basically all we're doing is we're just taking 0.3 times 250, and that gives us the number 75. So there's our answer. So 75 is 30% of 250. Let's try another one. Could we have percents over 100? Oh yeah, we can, right? It just means you're overflowing, right? You're over the 100% mark, right? Same deal. Okay, percent of a number. Okay, so which means percent times a number. We always want to turn our percent into its decimal form. Okay, it's percentless number. We could also turn that into its fraction too, but I just like using the decimal form. Okay, so let's go look for the decimal point in that number. It does not have a decimal point shown, so we assume it's at the far right end of the number. Okay, we take our percent and we always divide it by 100 to turn it into its percentless, right? That takes the percent sign off of it and turns it into just a decimal number, which is the same thing as moving the decimal point 2 spots to the left. So 1.45 is exactly the same number as 145%. They're just in different forms, right? One's a decimal and one's a percent. They are equivalent to each other though. Of, keyword in math, means times, so I'm just going to use grouping symbols. Okay, that means times. Anytime you have a number sitting right next to a parenthesis with nothing shown, you assume it's a times sign. Times the number 58. So there we go. So basically the calculation is just 1.45 times the number 58, which gives us 84.1. We can get decimal answers. There we go. All right, that was easy, right? These are all easy. Let's try another one. How about a single digit percent? A lot of people get messed up on this. They want to turn this into 0.8 as a decimal. That's not true. We always have to go 2 spots, right? So 8% of 72, keyword here, of means times, right? 8%, we want to turn it into its decimal number before we ever use it in a calculation. So where's the decimal point at the number 8? It's not shown, so we assume it's at the far right end of the number. There it is. We have to divide that number by 100 to turn it into its percentless number, right? Its decimal number. So 8 divided by 100 is the same thing as moving the decimal point twice to the left. So once. I know we ran out of room, but we got to go again twice. So we've got an open place value there. We've got to fill in with a 0, right? Open place values always get filled in with zeros. So 8% turns into the decimal number 0.08 or 0.08, right? Of times, just going to use grouping symbols again, 72. So the calculation there is 0.08 times the number 72, which gives us 5.76. There we go. Man, these are easy, aren't they? Let's try one more. Yes, we could even have a percent that is already given to us as a decimal number. That's okay. This isn't the percentless form of the number, right? This isn't the decimal form of this entire percent. It's just the percent is also a decimal percentage, though. So same rule applies here, right? We have a percent times, right, of keyword, right, times 60. Same thing here. We have to turn this percentless number into its decimal version, right? It's entirely decimal version. We have to get rid of that percent sign, right? We have to turn it into its number form, its decimal form. And the only way to do that to a percent is to divide this number by 100, which is the same thing as moving the decimal point 2 spots to the left. So divide it by 10, that's 1 spot to the left. Divide it by 100, 2 spots to the left. So that's going to turn into the number 0.125 or 0.125. We could throw a 0 there if we wanted to. Same number. Of times 60. So there we go. So our calculation is going to turn out to be 0.125 times the number 60 gives us the number answer 7.5 or 7.5. So there we go. Working with percentages is not too scary. You just got to learn a few tricks and how to deal with them. So there you go. Hope that helps.